I will be presenting news and impact for AutoCAD and BricsCAD. Peter already presented me, and I'm Nick. So Nick is just short for Nikolai, of course, especially for you guys coming from abroad, coming from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. I think Nick is much easier to pronounce as well. So what I'm thinking and what I'm going to do today, as this Peter mentioned, this is our first ever user conference that is actually online, and usually, you know, it's the thing of the year that we look most forward to meet up with you guys, have some good talks, have some really good networking, some dinner, and have a drink afterwards. And as Peter says, today we'll just have to imagine that good user conference mood that we usually have, and we'll try to express our good mood to you guys still, because we're still happy that we are able to host a user conference. I'm sitting here in Horsens in Denmark, and Peter, as he said, was from his home. So and later on we'll be changing to Aalborg in Denmark, then back to Horsens again, and make it as fluent as humanly possible, of course. But just to jump straight into it, what I wanted to focus on is actually just to keep it light and keep it simple, because you guys are sitting in your office. Maybe you have colleagues that are coming in asking you questions. So I don't want to flood you with information. I want to make sure that there are some few things that you take off from here for Impact CAD, in my case at least, that you remember and that you bring and you spread to your whole company afterwards. So things that you can take and use. Some things you can take and use today. Some things you'll be able to use tomorrow or to the next release, which is only a couple of weeks away. But that's the whole point of the presentation, at least, is that I want to give you a few things and really specify out why we actually think these things are important for you guys, of course, and for you guys to bring it back into your company and to your people. And I'll also show you, because I'll only be able to focus in on a very few things here. So I'll also make sure to show you guys where you can actually find everything that I'm showing you today by going into a website yourself and finding it. So the first thing I'll start with, this is just the agenda. So I'll just go through the agenda for you guys then. Big text, so you guys should all be able to read it without any issue. The first thing is I will make a little list, which is release new features for Impact CAD, and that list will be of all the documented features. That means that this is everything that is documented that you yourself can go in and find afterwards. Then I'll go in and I'll focus on just a few selected features, and that's why I mentioned in the beginning that, you know, I want to give you a few things you can take away from here, and a few things that works on pretty much all throughout the software, or all throughout the Impact for CAD software at least. And the things we'll be focusing on is a little bit something we call double click. I'll show you what it is, of course, afterwards. Improved linked elements, draw all outlines, auto adding quables, and we have a new module that we built as well called beam and block. And for most of the part, I'll be showing you some slides explaining how it works. But for beam and block, actually, I have a video I want to show you guys, because as it is a whole new module, it is a little bit bigger than what, you know, you can show in just a few slides, of course. Then at the end, I'll have a very brief talk about what the near future holds for Impact CAD. So just to get started, the list of released new features. These released new features are features released after the last user conference. So everything that we told you was coming in the last user conference, none of that is here. This is only from what we said and things we have made for you guys, especially after that. So some of the things we didn't even know about before then. So now you can see here that now the text is not so big anymore. Now you might struggle a little bit to read everything, but you don't have to worry. You can find everything later on, of course, anyways. But I just wanted to list out just to show you guys that a lot of stuff is still happening in the Impact for CAD software. So this is 3 quarterly releases. There are more than 50 new features here. And of course, we can say there's 50, there's 100, there's 200 features. The important thing is maybe not how many features there are. The important thing is which features it is. Is it something that you guys can actually go home and use? And that's what we're going to be looking at now, of course, because that's what I think is the most exciting thing, is coming to the user conference. Maybe some of you know some of the things already if you've spoken to us very recently, but I bet that most of you won't. And I will actually give you some things that you can just take this afternoon and just jump into straight and use across your company. So focusing on selected features, that's where we're starting now. And the first thing we'll be looking at is double click and right click commands. So that double click and right click, that's very vague. What does that really encompass and what does it cover? And that's what I aim to show you here. So first of all, before jumping into double click and right click, I will jump into this animation here of what is the alternative, or what did we do before we could double click? What did we do before we could right click? So in this case here, I have an element, and in Impact, of course, it doesn't really matter which element it is. If we want to edit something in an element, is it a wall, is it a slab, is it a double wall, is it a form slab, column beam, linked element, and so on. If we want to edit it, either we mark the element first and then click Edit Element. Then we need to make sure, of course, that it's the right type of element we're editing because of the different modules and the buildup of different modules in Impact. But in general, this takes about 3 clicks. Click Edit, click what you want to edit, and hit Enter, for example. Or what you could do, of course, as you guys all know, the users of this, mark the things that you want to edit, go up to Edit, and then Edit. And for those of you, some of you might think, oh, we're not using this. We're doing shortcut commands in AutoCAD. And that's a very good way of getting through this where you don't have to go up and click a button. You know, maybe your edit wall is set to a shortcut, and that shortcut is called EW. So you just press EW and enter, then click the wall and then edit it. So that solves part of the thing. But we want to solve the whole thing for you guys. We want to solve the whole thing for different modules, different element types with one thing, with one, development. And that is the development of the double click command here. So if I just go next to the next slide, you can see I just simply click the element. And then what happens afterwards, I'll get back to that because this will just repeat anyways. So instead of choosing the element, going up to edit, or choosing the element, running your edit type command, you simply just double click the element. So here we look at the slide right now, double click. Now we're editing the element. The next thing that is coming, and I just give it a little bit of time because it is so fast. This is 1-to-1 speed. So this is all it takes to get where you want to go. But the next thing is, if you right click the element, inside the regular right click commands of AutoCAD, we've also put the impact commands now. So this could be, again, if you mark several elements at once, you just right click and you press the command that it is that you actually want. So you might be thinking here, why am I spending so much time on such a small thing as double click? And the point here is that this is not double click for walls. This is not double click for slabs. This is double click for impact for CAD, meaning that every single one of your element type is available to double click or to right click. But it's not only limited to elements and element types. So as you can see here now, I'm jumping to another animation here, and this is just part of a shop drawing. And this shop drawing here, I'm just double clicking a custom material instead. So it could be a custom material, it could be a wire loop, lifter, it could be a piece of reinforcement, and again, it could be in any element. So if we just jump a little bit further, so you can maybe feel right now that I'm building it up a little bit, and that's because I want you guys to know everything you can do with this. And when you start, when we end the user conference today, I want all of you guys to jump into your software and try it out, because no settings are needed. The only thing you need to be able to do this is just to have the new version of Impact installed, Impact 16 and the newest update. This is not only in the newest update, so if you have the last one from this summer, it will actually also work there. So summing it up, this works on all element types. It also works on casted materials, linear casted materials, electrical keys, dynamic casting materials. We keep going here because one thing that we could do before, which is not new for this user conference, but I want to take the time to just focus you guys in on it, is the same with reinforcement bars and stirrups as well. You can also double click them. You can also right click them and edit anything you want to edit. So that means that you don't have to spend this time of going up to the menu or finding the command or remembering the shortcut command or whatever you were doing before. Simply right click, you get to where you need to go. So it just makes it so much easier for you guys to work. And I can personally say, now Peter has been with the company here for 20 years. I have been with the company for about 6 years. So I'm not as old a user as Peter is. He's been for a very long time, but even though I've only been using it for 6 years, it is difficult for me to adjust to this because I just go back to the old ways. And that again is one of the reasons why I want to put so much focus on this, because you guys need to go in and try this out, and you really need to go, in your whole company, tell everyone, listen, you're working in this piece of software for 8 hours, maybe 10 hours a day. If you're working like us in the weekend as well, we don't want to miss any time. But here you just save time, it's easier, and you can just keep going. So it's not only on the plan drawing, it's not only on the 3D model of the plan drawing, it's actually also for those elements that are on the type of drawings we call elevation drawings. It is the exact same. And of course, also for the shop drawings like this one shows you here. And as I mentioned before, no setup is needed. You simply double click or right click and you're good to go. So this is something you can use straight away. So that was it for the double click commands, and I hope I got through with what I wanted to get through to you guys, because this changes a lot of the core of how we work with the software. And it's very important for us to remember that it's not only about flashy new features, especially in a piece of software like Impact for CAD we've had for many, many years. It's about improving the core inside it, to improve the user experience, to make it easier to use for you guys, and just to make that point from A to B as easy as possible. And that's actually, I think that's what all of the features that I'm going into today is about. So the next one we jump to is what is called improved linked element. And like double click and right click, it doesn't mean so much. What is that? What have we improved? So if we jump into, again, I have made an animation here. And this for you guys that are working with linked element. Not all of you are working with linked element, so maybe not all of you can recognize this. Even the ones of you working with linked elements will not recognize what I'm showing you here actually, because this is actually the improved linked element. So that means that when you do your linked element in 3D, it could be anything. It could be stair, it could be foundation piling, it could be anything. In this case, we just, for the sake of showing it, it's just a double T, even though double T is a thing. Just show my webcam again here. Sorry, guys. Even though double T is a thing that we can actually do inside Impact. But the point here is when you make a linked element, you make, for example, a 3D model of a stair or something like that, you had to make the drawing manually before. So you still have to partly make it manually, but now Impact will actually take pictures or take sections or whatever you want to name it of that actual model that you made of the linked element. And this means that you don't have to sit and pick this. You just select, like here to the side, click, where do you want it? And there you go. So very, very much improved automation in the actual linked elements. You don't have to draw it up from scratch anymore. So that brings a little bit of automation to our element type that was not automated before. So that is great news, of course, especially for those of you who are making elements that is not part of the core Impact element types. So the model view itself, which we are not looking at here, that can be inserted. You can use it to change and save the element, the 3D view itself, which is called model here. You can see we're checking the model off using front, top, and left. But that one can be used for saving and changing the element. And the 2D views here, of course, just like I mentioned, this is for streamlining the drawings. And this is, again, something to improve the core experience, something to improve the core things, the everyday things you're doing when you're using the software, actually. So it doesn't do something new. It just helps you do what you needed to do anyways, which is the important thing, I think, to take away from this one. But that's actually it about improved linked. This is, again, something just like before, you should be able to jump into straight away and use. Of course, this requires that the linked element that you're actually doing has the correct geometry in a 3D model when you're doing a 3D solid. But that's the only requirement. So this is also something you can just go ahead and start to use. So if we jump to the next one, draw wall outline. Again, a very vague title. What does this actually mean? If I jump into here, I have a few examples for you guys. Basically, what draw wall outline means is we want Impact to draw a wall for us and outline the wall as well. So this one, the first example I have you, is basically Impact drawing a wall for us, because here is just drawing regular walls. And what you can do is, this is one-to-one the speed. So let's just check it out. You have a polyline, select the element you want, and just select the internal point of the polyline. Select the gap, select an end cap. You can make it cut all the corners like we do here, and then cut in between the elements. So in between the elements, that is the end cap that we chose in between elements that are going straight next to each other. But the corners in this draw wall outline, it will create the end caps automatically. So this draw wall outline is a tool to make this early stage of modeling much faster than what you're doing today, where you will draw the wall around and then you will need to do maybe a joint or something to make a corner. In this case here, how the corners are oriented is not the most important thing, because this is meant to make this modeling phase really fast, and to have some model that you can do some sort of takeoff on really fast. So there's another part to this, because it's not only to make something faster, it's also to make some things easier. So if I jump to the next example here, just to the right, just like I did before, what you'll see here is a little different shape, and with another type of wall, solid walls instead. And this time I'm not having the software to select all the corners for me. I select the corners myself for where I want to split. And what happens here is that I will get two L-shaped panels. So if you look here to where the mouse is right now, we have two L-shaped panels. Those end caps are automatically created by Impact, and it uses that basic end cap that we choose, which is for the connection between two elements side to side, and it uses that end cap and that shape of that end cap to actually create the L-shaped wall and that end of that L shape for the wall. So there's a lot of things you can do with this draw wall outline here. And as I mentioned, this is meant to be a powerful tool in early design, a way for you guys to quickly draw up a building and very quickly draw up a 3D model. So you get the number of walls. Maybe they're not the exact right size, maybe it's not the exact right orientation, but of course that's detailed work. Sorry guys, this is just to save you guys a huge amount of time and effort when you do something like this. These very small examples I'm showing you are taking 5 seconds in something that maybe took 30 seconds before, but as we're jumping on bigger and bigger buildings, you can imagine the time you're saving and you know, the amount of effort that you're actually saving. Other than being this very powerful tool in the early design, it also makes it extremely easy for you guys to model L and U-shaped walls without having to sit and draw the end caps. Impact will simply make up the end caps for you, and you can go in and edit them afterwards, but it basically does the legwork for you here. So here I'm showing the L-shaped ones, but it could also be a U-shaped one instead. Even better is if you use a tool like Draw Casted Material Template, where you select the whole floor and you use it to set wire loops, welding plates, draw specs or whatever in the elements. You do that, so that means that you combine this new way of working together with the existing automated tools just to make an extremely quick and even more precise early stage model. Then suddenly you have all the elements split, you have all the wire loops you want, all the welding plates you want, and you can make really, really close estimates and lists of what it is you actually need for that project, even before you almost know where that project will go. So this is just something to make the start design, the concept design really, really easy for you guys. Again, as the other two examples that I show you guys, this is something that you can just go inside AutoCAD or BricsCAD and start to use right now. So simple as that. No setup needed. You only need to use the button. And I can just go back here. And the button up here is, I haven't zoomed in on it, so I'm sorry about that. But it's like a wall outline. Just next to draw wall, you will find it. So it should be really easy for you guys to jump in, figure out if it's something you can use. If it is, bring it around the whole company and enjoy. So AutoCAD callables, again, is something just like double click, just like improved link, just like draw wall outline, to make life easy for you guys, to improve the core experience, to make things quicker. So AutoCAD callables is not for a specific element type, it's for a couple of element types. Generally, where do we put callables on? We put callables on walls, and we put callables on columns. And this example here, you can see this is a very quick example, but again, it's showing the effort required to actually do this. So let's just let it run, and I'll explain step by step. So add callable, select elements to add callable, which callable, press OK and enter. There we go, callables on several floors in several directions, on the sides of the elements. In this case, this is columns and beams. So it's just a really, really quick way of actually getting this to, well, again, a little bit like the draw wall outline is, just add some more detail to that early stage model. Make it easier for yourself to continue working on it, making it a specific model to create your shop drawings and everything on. There's another animation here where we have some hollow cores and we have some wall panels. And the same thing here is it adds the corbels in the intersection. So this is a little bit similar to what we showed. I think, I don't remember if this was last year or 2 years ago, about auto cutting the elements, automatic recesses. So instead of the automatic recess, it's the automatic corbel. So it kind of finishes the loop a little bit of what we want to give you guys in these sorts of automated things and just making everything easier to use. So again, similar to the other thing here, this is a very powerful tool for you guys in the early design. It makes modeling of corbel super easy because it uses the regular corbel command from Impact. So the corbel you choose is the one that you've made and would have made manually anyways. So again, just making it easier. Again, combine it with existing tools. So combine it with adding different things again to make this very quick and very precise early stage model, or just to make the actual modeling easier for yourself. So this is like a very common thing. And I think you can say this is like a little bit the topic for this year about Impact for CAD, is that we just want to give you tools this time to make life easier for yourself. So those are the 4 new commands that are basically automating almost existing commands for you guys I wanted to show you. And of course, as I showed before, we have made more than 50 new features, and we'll get back to again where you can find that, of course, because a lot of you, of course, are wondering, what about my form slabs? Is there anything new specific for form slabs? What about my double walls? Is there specific news for that? And the answer to both of those questions is yes, of course there is. but I just don't have them on the presentation here. So we'll get a little bit later on. I'll show you guys where to find it and where to get the information. So the next big thing is the beam and block module. What is the beam and block module? That's what I want to try to explain you guys today. And I will explain it through a video. We could do a live demo of it. That would simply take too long, I think, to show everything. But we've made a pre-cut video, which is already on the website again as well, actually, for you guys to see. But I want to show you the video here and explain to you guys a little bit the story about beam and block and why we actually are doing this beam and block here. So what we have here is a video, and let me just take the mouse here and click play. So you should be able to see now, this is like a 3-minute video, impact design, beam and block. And I'll be talking a little bit, there's some writing, there's some subtitles as well, but I'll be talking a little bit about what it is anyways. So general, for those of you who are not in countries or in areas where beam and block is used, it is a type of flooring. And the way that you actually make a beam and block floor is like you select an area when you, for example, make a hollow core floor, you select an area here as well. But in the beam and block, you make something we call base. And the base we save into impact. We save them as faces, so you can split the base by each side if you want to control the erection even more, and use some of the cool features that I know Dennis Knudsen will be showing you in Impact Project later on. But as you can see here, there are a lot of configuration options for the beam and block. You can select which beam section, basically any type of pre-stressed section, and the blocks you can make in any material, in any size, and different combinations of how many beams are there for purposes to make the flooring hold, of course. Rotation and a distance between, that's simply it. Then you have the beams, and it'll show the distance between the blocks as well here. So the same thing is if we have a shape that's not rectangular, here we have like a slanted shape, it's basically the exact same principle, where you just select the bay, select the beam layout, and here you have it. So there's some things that are important here. For example, to the left, between bay 1 and bay 2, we only have a very thin underlaying wall or a thin underlaying foundation. And of course, we wanted to make automatic clash control so you cannot make them overlap. But we're also giving you guys the option of actually editing this. So in this case here, if you're very quick, you can see there are 2 beams now where it starts to make it, to optimize it a bit more. So you're able to actually go in and edit this yourselves. What's happening now? We're mirroring. So simply again, just like the other mirror commands in Impact for CAD to save time. We can't see the blocks right now, but we add them. Now the blocks are added. So very, very simple commands. And the whole point of beam and block here is actually to make a floor very quickly, then have a schedule with quantities. So let me see if maybe I can pause this. Let me just pause it for you guys so it doesn't run too quickly. But here you can see we get a base schedule. We have a quantity of beams. We have a floor area. We have a quantity of the blocks. So in this case here, we're actually adding almost 2,200 blocks in this very short amount of time. But that's the whole point of this, is that we need a list just to make very quickly so we know what we're delivering out on site for this project of beam and block here, of course. Let me just click play again. Saving the elements into the database, throws them into Project Manager, throws them into the database. The list could even be made without having them in the database, as you can see. Here we have it in the Project Manager. If you're making a beam and block floor as a part of a 3D model building, you can export it into IFC, have it looking at it together with your 3D model, and I'll just pause again. Let me just go back here, sorry. So having that in your 3D model, and you can see if you have some holes that are going through, can you save some blocks? Do you need to cut some blocks? Whatever you need to see. Usually you don't need to look at that in detail here, but basically this is the beam and block module. This is what I wanted to show you guys. What the beam and block is used for and where it is typically used is mainly we made it for the UK market. So some of you guys, the ones of you guys that are here right now from the UK will recognize this. The ones of you from Sweden, for example, might not really use this type, but it's used in Italy, in UK, in Oceania as well, in a different format where it's called ribbon timber instead. But again, it's just the size of the beam, the type of the beam, the type of block. So the block could be wooden, it could be polystyrene, it could be a concrete block or lightweight concrete block. So anything that you can imagine here can be used with this combination of tools. So this is the whole new beam and block module that is made for impact. And it's something that can be used again. Of course, this one is not like a plug and play solution like the rest of the things I showed you today. So you'll have to do some setup of it, of course, and get access to it. So that's the focusing on the selected features, which takes us to what is the near future for Impact CAD hold. And if I just click one more time, we have this near future. So we have Q4, which we're releasing in a very, very short time, I think within the next 2 weeks. And we have 12, 13, 14 new features variables for that one as well. I'm not going into specific ones of those either, that I will leave up to you guys. So you spend the time on actually researching and looking at what it is that you need. But what's going to be happening from today and then until the next user conference? Here we're talking about mainly two things, and I know this is a little bit small on the screen, but as always, we're doing minimum quarterly releases and updating the Impact 16 system to get you guys new features, new variables, new ways of using the software, making it easier, better for you guys to use, of course. And the next big thing, of course, is Impact 17. So I don't have anything about Impact 17 today. I know Peter later on in the afternoon, he will be just giving you guys a few words about Impact 17, but I will leave that to him, of course. So basically, that concludes what I wanted to show you of features. And as I promised you guys in the beginning, I will show you where you can find newly released, and actually, when we get close to the releases, you'll actually also find upcoming releases. So let's try and see what happens if I click this link here. We open up a website and we get into the Impact Wiki. Inside the Impact Wiki, there is a lot of information. So I just wanted to help you guys to navigate this. If you want to look at new features, don't go to Impact CAD, don't go to Impact Cost, don't go to Impact Go Project Manager. You go up here to the top left, click Change Notes. Then you will have change notes for all the listed applications. In my case now, I'm presenting Impact for CAD, so I click Impact for CAD. And here you'll have, for example, change note from 16.009, which is not released yet. There is a bunch of new features here. If I scroll down, you can see the releases and when the new features were at. So here we're not adding everything new, but we're adding documentation for everything where you guys can come in and see how to use these different things. And let me just try and find the double click commands one that I showed before, because you'll see another example of it here. If I click the double click commands here instead we have a slab, and double clicking and casting material in the slab that was not added to the slab, or double clicking the slab. So again, it works on all element types. But this one here, Impact Wiki, the website is wiki.impact.strusoft.com. You guys can just go in there and check it out. I think most of you guys know the wiki exists already, but this is more of giving you like the tools of where can you find these change notes, you know, the easiest way. Let me close this one down again. There's another thing that I just want to mention, and I know that Peter will also get into the website a little bit later on, but this is our webinars. Stay tuned in on new features with webinars. So if I click here, it'll take us into the Strusoft website, but it'll take us straight to the webinars and training section. So we can see right now There are only 2 webinars left, but that is just for this year. So don't you worry, guys, there will be a lot more next year. Even if you think we should do a webinar on a new topic, let us know, and we'll bring it into the considerations. So right now we have the Impact User Conference, which is being held right now. Then December 8th, we have Erection Planning 2.0. When we get to project again later today, Dennis Knudsen will show you a little bit what the Erection Planning 2.0 is about. But when we get to the webinar here, we will show you the buttons to use of how to use the newly and improved direction planning, crane planning, and all these things. So if you guys are interested in this type of stuff, go in right now, sign up for the webinar December 8th. It is only 3 weeks from now. So that finishes it up approximately. I will just look at my watch here, and we are almost out of time. But if you guys have some questions, you can write them in the question box. You don't have to write them now. We can also do it later on. But I just have a couple of minutes. So I'm just looking at the questions here to the side. There is one here about the beam and block. It says how to use beam and block. Well, basically, beam and block is a new module. So if you're curious, if you want to try and use it, if you want to see more what it's all about, feel it, with on your own hands and everything like that, just get in touch with us. Contact someone from the support, or me or Peter or anyone, and we'll get you set up, of course. Great, but what I'll do is I will jump back to the agenda here then.